By the dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Hey, it's God's comic, Brad Stine. This is Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. Brought to you by Christian Podcast Central. Why do we need a Podcast Central? Because if it was a podcast basement, you'd only get the dredges. If it was a podcast attic, you couldn't get in, and if you did, it'd be haunted. No, we need that Podcast Central. So go to Christian Podcast Central and subscribe. This is a new 4th of July podcast. I'm going to tell you now, it's going to be abbreviated version. We're going to do a short version so you can get out and watch the fireworks. Speaking of fireworks, my son screwed up the last time we did this. Son, are you feeling a lot more confident today?
Let me just tell you something. That singing of yours sounded so much better the second time. And man, by the third time, make it end. Make this end. Please, listen, audience. I beg of you. I don't care what the quality of the stream is right now. Just tell me it's okay, please. I need this. I've spent hours getting this stream to work properly, and then hours after that. I don't know what else to do. If it doesn't work this time.
If you're going to complain over and over again, son, that you aren't figuring out your glitches, you're really berating the audience.
Well,
I mean,
here's
you
the
gotta
thing.
trust us. You understand that much of our audience comes here to watch you glitch? Do you know that?
Yeah. I'm not gonna say I'm proud of it, but I will
do you know
say
what Wyatt means in Latin?
He who messes up royally.
Glitchmaster.
I
mean, you're taking a Hebrew.
Oh, you're doing the regional dialect.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
I was doing more of a local.
No, I know you. That's how you are. You're more a part of the people. You're more the milkman. I'm more of the sophisticated IT expert they go to. I'm the geek squad, son.
So yeah, speaking of glitches, our soundboard is legit glitching out, like what you'd see in like a cartoon or a sitcom.
Yeah.
And oh boy, is it not fun to watch.
Yes. Are you telling me that somehow right now as we speak?
No, to keep going. The podcast is working brilliantly. It's a visual glitch that just gives me those, like, you know, in like war movies.
Yeah.
How the veteran would get that 1,000-eye glassy stare as he remembers the past.
Yeah.
That's me right now looking at those glitches. It's just, I just know any second something's gonna happen from that, and I'm just gonna relive this nightmare of a stream. I thought a holiday stream would have been a cakewalk. I mean, it's an abbreviated stream. We're not really doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
I have done more work getting this stream to work than I have any other stream we've done.
Why, you realize you're suffering from PTSD.
Post-traumatic soundboard disease. Yep.
Yes! See, that's my boy. He's always there prepared. He's always there to do best he can. Yes, he's a glitch. Yes, it confounds him. Yes, the buttons are too complicated.
Yes, you may mock me for this.
But you're here. You're figuring it out little by little. I'm so proud of how good you did. And a lot of you out there are saying, why didn't you mention Nick Grass? Why didn't you mention Karen Boyd? Why didn't you mention Karen Ferguson, Teresa Ferguson? Why didn't you mention Benjamin Gregory? I'm not mentioning any of you today. This is a representation of the 4th of July. We're going to remember the soldiers, the sailors, the Marines. You're going to mention the founding fathers. This is like I said, an abbreviated podcast. Not going to go long tonight. We're going to let you get out there and celebrate freedom the way it's supposed to be celebrated. And if you're a first-timer watching this show for the first time, because you've seen some of my clips, maybe you're a new fan, never seen the podcast before, or if you're from another country, so the 4th of July doesn't mean jack to you, I'm going to show you what it means to us. What? I have a clip I did a while back of me making fun of the 4th of July. Not because the 4th of July isn't a beautiful and amazing celebratory day, but because of what happens on the 4th if you happen to be in a blue state as opposed to a red state. Wyatt, you ever been in a blue state?
Born in one.
You sure were. What was it?
California.
Does it frighten you?
Almost as much as this stream.
Well then, let's get to it. Folks, enjoy one of my old clips on the 4th of July. Here's a routine all about the 4th. Oh, and mocking a blue state. Hit it, Wyatt.
I think some holidays are more gender specific, don't you? I mean, we all get to play, but 4th of July is a guy holiday. Not that we don't want the ladies, but it's the one day a year where we're not only asked, but expected to blow something up. And I love that, and I tell you that because for most of my life, I grew up in California on the 4th of July. That's right, California, the most wussified state in the United States of America. If there's any state that's going to take the Founding Fathers' original intent of the Constitution and turn it on its head and take everything that they desire to become their right because they don't have the discipline to give them back to more than what they want to take, it's going to be California. They keep threatening to break off and fall in the ocean, but they never do. I mean, I don't want them to die. Just want them to float away. Go start your own island of misfit toys. Say hi to the Ninth Circuit on the way around Hawaii. I'm telling you, it was embarrassing to be a man on the 4th of July in California because they are so wussified. They are so completely embedded in this political correct Marxist nonsense that makes you into this wussified, spineless piece of junk. Oh, kids, get 57 feet away from the fireworks and put on these safety goggles and get behind this plexiglass shield and avert your eyes and don't look directly in the flame. Daddy's lighting a snake pellet. I'm telling you, this is what passes for the 4th of July in California. Do you hear me, men? I tell you this with great gusto and joy that 9 years ago I moved my family from California to Nashville, Tennessee. I became one of you all. I tell you that because I went out to grab my fireworks that first year and realized immediately I had found testosterone nirvana. When I bought my fireworks and they came with a mortar tube. With a package the size of my fist, 15 inches of fuse, just enough time to leap into the neighbor's bushes. I had to buy 5 hoses to wrap around my stinking house to prepare a week in advance. You want to know the difference between the 4th in California and Tennessee? Here's California. Tennessee. trying to join in. They can't even give you thumbs up anymore. That's what I'm talking about. Woo! That ain't nothing. When we were your age, we used to hold them.
Wyatt, did you admire my genius?
Oh, I admired your genius, but man, what was that tie?
I don't know what that means. What was that tie?
Yeah,
you
what,
just said.
like, it's just like, what era was that tie from?
Oh, it was 1923. It was part of the Speakeasy movement.
Ah, yes.
Ah.
The old bootleg. They used to call it,
Yes,
yep.
Bathtub gin's what we used to call it back in the day, son.
Back before it was Bed Bath & Beyond. It was,
Yes, I used to drink in the bathtub.
Yep.
Remember those days?
Man, you know, I still remember the day they announced that Prohibition had ended, so bathtub bootleggers can drop the bootlegging and just sell baths.
Yes.
They really took off after that.
Yeah. It was a drag when suddenly you drinking out of the bathtub wasn't such a special secret thing that everybody got together, and it was like, but you know, like eventually they moved to Monopoly, but before that, it was sitting together as a group and drinking gin out of the bathtub.
Oh yeah, classic 1920s.
But you know what? It's interesting you bring that up because that was an amendment to the Constitution that said that you can't drink alcohol because they thought it was important for the federal government to rule your life.
I think it was more the federal government proved that they have a firm misunderstanding of just how much people like drinking.
Amen, my son.
Like, oh man, I did not realize how much we enjoyed that.
Yes, perhaps we underestimated the lushness of American citizens. Perhaps the Alcoholic Coalition was a lot more powerful as a force than we had reckoned with initially. Perhaps we didn't anticipate Al Capone rising from obscurity, becoming one of the richest guys in the world because he was now selling liquor we used to tax and make money off of. Wyatt, do you think it's a good indicator on July 4th that maybe the federal government should keep its butt out of virtually everything Americans does, except for maybe putting a military together in case we ever get invaded?
Yeah, I will say, I've noticed these signs that always appear on the 4th that says, no fireworks within city limits. You know, if George Washington were alive here today and he saw that, you know what he would tell me? Oh my goodness, what is this lighted technology you have? But then once he got past the shock value of that, he would go like, no, that's not what I fought for.
So what do you think he would get out of the new America that we have today? What do you think George Washington would really feel about America as we are today, 2022, 4th of July? Just had Roe v. Wade overturned, just made new, easier constitutional access to handgun carry in New York. What do you think the founders would feel today?
I can tell you what George Washington would be saying.
What?
He would be like an angry parent. What did I tell you about throwing a party when I'm gone? What did I tell you? I said no political parties.
Right.
I go away for a few hundred years, and what do you do?
Right. See, these guys were very conservative about what they thought America was going to be. They knew it was going to be a very special type of person because remember, we the people were the government. This is something that is constantly being lost in America. They look at a Biden or a Kamala Harris or the Senate or the Congress or the Supreme Court and they think, these leaders are the ones that are going to get us into the next season in America. They're not. They're not. You know why? Because they were voted on to represent us, not to rule us. And they think they get to rule us. And those who've been in Congress 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they do rule us. They got power. They sell us out. They're traitors. It happens all the time. In COVID, showed it more than anything I had ever seen, exposed more than I'd ever anticipated. You know, I told you guys that was going to be a short version of the podcast tonight because I wanted you guys to be able to celebrate the 4th. And for some of you who are loyal enough to come and watch on this evening, but it's 7 o'clock Central, so if you happen to be in the East Coast, it's 8. Fireworks are heading out. I don't want you to miss that. This is a celebration of freedom. This is a celebration of the First Amendment, Second Amendment. This is a celebration of all of the Bill of Rights that said this is what it means to be a free man in the United States. You know, we are at a time in America where we are at such a friction, such an impasse. And because of the Marxist ideology that has completely taken over the academia and has destroyed education in America and has seeped into corporations and basically is a cancer and a true civil war declared on America to steal our freedoms and to inculcate it with Marxism and literally and then of course we'll be controlled by China. This is real. This is real, and it's July 4th. So we need to remember what it meant to wonder if that flag still waves. You know, it's funny, a few years ago, Colin Kaepernick, kneeled, saying, I don't like the way the police handle black Americans, so I'm going to kneel at the as we sing our national anthem to show disdain for a country that gives me the freedom to make millions of dollars doing nothing but playing football, which is about the most overpaid profession you can have as an athlete, not as overpaid as an actor. They are the single most overpaid, needless person in the world. They're talented, it's entertaining, but nobody is less important than an actor and gets paid more for it than any other type of profession, as far as I can tell, in the world. And I'm an actor, by the way. I've been in films. It's a beautiful art, and it's fun, and I love to tell stories. I'm not saying it doesn't have value. I'm just talking about the equation as to what value it is when it comes to what they get paid based on what they get back. But I wanted to say this. You know, the great and amazing truth about America is the things that people hate about it, the things that people say, you know, it had slavery, it was oppressive, it was a colonizer, it steals from the poor, gives to the rich, it's capitalistic, so exploits third world countries, all the things it uses to disparage this nation can be said anytime, anywhere in this nation without fear of repercussions. That's what the First Amendment is. The very people, the founding fathers, and the very nation and its ethos and its DNA that is disparaged and maligned, ironically, is given, these folks are given freedom to speak these types of malice onto these folks only because those folks gave them that freedom. That's what real freedom actually is. That's how great America is. It gives and has even prepared a philosophy that states we're going to give you such freedom that if you want to destroy your freedom and give it away so it no longer exists, we'll give you that freedom. You see, that's what freedom is. It always comes with a risk. It always comes with danger. If it's truly free, it's dangerous because that means it can be lost. Any belief system that can't be lost because it demands your obedience isn't free. It might work and it might be powerful, but it's not free. So I think I'm going to end today's podcast earlier than it's ever been in 2 years so that you can go enjoy the 4th. But I wanted to be here because you guys are loyal and have always been here on Monday, so I wanted to do the same and honor and dignify that. But a few weeks ago, I started my first rant, as I would call it, called Brad Stine Has Issues, that you've seen many clips of over the last few years, where I used to do it at Christian Podcast Central. That's why I talk about them every day. They're the ones that subsidized for me to make those rants and started the whole idea of Brad Stine Has Issues, which is what gave this podcast its name. And I realized that I wanted to continue to write these rants and this time do them live on my podcast so they could be more topical and they could be more connected to what's actually happened in America. So I called it A Moment of Truth, and then I found a podcast or something that calls itself the moment of truth. So it's like, oh, crud, I can't use that. So I think I'm going to call it, unless I find out that this is already being used, the truth hurts. But it is my soliloquy asking a question about America on the 4th of July. And the title is, does everyone deserve America? And now, God's Comic brings you a moment of truth, or as I now call it, the truth hurts. Here's a question for you. Do you believe that all Americans deserve America? In other words, do you believe that to be an American, there should be some expectations you meet to keep in good standing? Now, I realize that sounds like a loaded question, since it would mean defining what that criteria would be and who gets to arbitrate it. But it is interesting to note that when we reference the myriad of values we fight for as Americans, that in the midst of these debates, we have to examine our rights as well to justify them. So it is also telling when you realize that very often when it comes to evaluating divergent points of view, some Americans will literally argue, utilizing their free speech, that they have a right to use their free speech to deny others their free speech. If you haven't figured this out by now, you need to realize that we are in a civil war in regards to equal protection, distribution, and access for all points of view, as every conservative and Christian has learned existentially over the past 20 years. I say this because leftism is the only position that seeks to establish and reinforce its position by denying others theirs. The left always seems to believe that the solutions to problems is simply solved by taking away freedoms from others and define it as for the greater good. They have to use this approach for two main reasons. Number one is because leftists cannot persuade the vast majority of Americans to buy into their cancerous Marxist-based philosophy. But the number two reason is probably even the more important reason why the left uses this censoring technique to implement their will and ways into society. It's a twisted truth, but accurate nonetheless. They silence the right and censor and malign the right's point of view because it works. Since all network media, virtually all social media, and tech companies, as well as universities and even major corporations are now siding with this woke nonsense, there isn't a lot of places for conservatives to go to affirm their position and seek to find some consensus from the run-of-the-mill American. This utilitarian means of evaluating what is best for society is interesting in its inability to justify its conclusions. Take the word progressive. The very word entails the idea that its adherents believe in and are committed to progress, and it sounds noble. Noble enough, but notice that what they define as progress is simply their desires. They never give us data to prove what they're proposing is superior to the way things already are. Just as they define the word conservative as someone who is resistant to change. And they use that definition disparagingly. They are presuming within the same exercise that what conservatives are resisting is something that is really better for us and shouldn't be resisted. Says who? Where does the left get the notion that their innovation is in fact superior, especially in regard to the fact progressives always have to change what we know works now for something untried and untested that they've already decided will evolve our future for the best? These are the people that try to justify their claim of progress by using the noble-sounding phrase, being on the right side of history. The problem is that history is in the past, and they're projecting their so-called improvement into the future, which means it can't actually be evaluated as to if it worked out yet. How can you be on the wrong side of history before the future has become history? This verbal sleight of hand is not only disingenuous, but more importantly, dangerous, because it literally ignores actual history for the sake of utopian vision usually marks a space, even if the adherents don't know it, which is very formidably proven historically to not only be a huge mistake, but a catastrophic one. The arrogance of the less to jettison historically proven human benefits like the nuclear family, being married before having children, or even something so demonstrably obvious like men and women are different and created to complement each other. I think they've moved humanity forward in a healthy way. It's taken hubris to new levels of foolishness that has rarely been seen before in recorded history. There's a concept I've used in the form of a phrase that I often articulate in regards to evaluating the difference between rights and responsibilities. It's a simple concept, but it actually is a means to analyze how much you value freedom. And it goes like this. If you live in a country that gives you permission to burn your own flag without penalty, that would be exactly the reason why you shouldn't. In other words, if intrinsic within the fabric of your culture is the freedom to disparage it, malign it, and despise it, then that should be proof enough that it is much better a country than you give it credit for. At the point you aren't showing bravery by disparaging your country as though you've done something courageous, but in fact, you did the exact opposite. You leverage the fact that you are free to attack without fear of recourse because you have actually not exposed your country's flaws, but instead exposed your own. You are maybe the worst citizen in regards to your behavior because you are ungrateful. Ungrateful for others' sacrifices, others' courage, and others' willingness to risk everything with the expectation of it being reciprocated under the next generation in line to hopefully thrive in the greatest nation in history. So today is the 4th of July. Maybe you might want to take a moment of reflection when passing one of the ubiquitous flags flown from buildings, community centers, and front yards. That flag represents not just the blood, sweat, and tears of a millennia, but it also reminds you that if you don't like something about America, then use your freedoms to try and persuade others to help you fix it. If you think something is unjust or unfair, then bring attention to it, sure. And if you have a case that can be evaluated and proven correct, then you will more than likely get a lot of fellow citizens to join you in your campaign to right some wrongs. You see, that's what makes America great. Not that it's perfect, or it's never made mistakes, or failed to live up to its standards of decency and equality. No, it's great because it is willing to always strive to fix what is broken, mend what is torn, and do so while welcoming more diverse cultures and ethnicities than any country in human history. If you can't see that, acknowledge that, and be grateful for that, then you are truly on the wrong side of history, and no, you don't even deserve America. The fact that you're not kicked out anyway, simply another moment of reflection to expose who the truly intolerant and divisive actually are. If that's you, I'm not here to insult you or condemn you. Nope. I'm here to say one word to you from one American to another. Change. I want to say thank you for coming on this abbreviated 4th of July special of Brad Stine Has Issues. If you believe in what I'm doing, lifting up God and country, disparaging and putting down political correctness and cultural Marxism, going out into live events, trying to do everything I can to remember America's heritage and history, to try to change the school system, try to change universities, to begin to mobilize a militia of the mind of fellow Americans who aren't going to put up with this nonsense and watch their country become crippled on their watch without a fight. If you want to be a militia of the mind with me, just let me know. You can donate if you want. I am a ministry, God's Comic Ministry. It's a 501c3, so you can get a tax break. And by your donations, I'll be able to continue to try to fight this fight using what I happen to be good at, communication. If you want to join me or help me, I got a shows coming up. I'll let you know. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be in Arlington, Texas in August. I need you to fill that place up to show America that conservatives and Christians will show up and pay out of their own pocket to go see material that is PC free, exposing the lunacy of what's happening on the left and destroying the censorship and the freedom that is being ripped away as we speak. This is what I'm about. And those of you who have been on this podcast and watched for years, you've, by your donations, have made this happen. Little by little, it's going to get stronger and stronger, and it will be one of a kind. But we will remember America. We will be a militia, and we will fight back, and we will seize the day. Be grateful for America today, guys. Go enjoy your fireworks. Remember, that was a representation of actual bombs and actual deaths, so that we could sit here today and eat hot dogs and apple pie. God bless America, the greatest nation there ever was. PC free is liberty. And this is God's comic Brad Stine, especially on the 4th of July, putting the woke back to sleep. Thanks.